And that's what we're talking about today. The people who have. And the art of figuring out how to get that and how to maintain that. I could go on and on because there's a lot of happy, shiny people here, you know, experiencing the glow and demonstrating the flow. I don't need to preach at most of you because you've got it. For me, it's very much connected to A Course in Miracles. And if you don't know about A Course in Miracles, it's just one philosophy that we share here. But A Course in Miracles really says that in order to change our experience, we have to change the way we're seeing things. You know, and if I'm not in the flow, it's because I'm not seeing things correctly. And if I'm not seeing things, then I'm not able to be. If I'm not able to see, I'm not able to be. If I'm not able to be, I'm not able to free. If I'm not able to free my experience, I'm choking something off. I'm draining something. I'm draining it of the goodness of God that flows through all things. So the optimal idea is that we begin to see and be in free love to a greater degree. And as we be and see in free love to a greater degree, simply by asking, what would love have me do in this moment, we activate our happiness. And our happiness is what makes us glow. That's what makes us glow. It's super, super simple math. Like, it's not complicated at all, you know? And happiness, believe it or not, is our natural state of being. It's what we were designed for, you know. And if we're in a spiritual conversation, like, don't think for a minute that God is invested in having crabby calling cards, you know. Like, if you want to demonstrate your faith, you should be happy, joyous, and free. You know, I've been in a couple of different anonymous rooms that study stepping from step to step, if you know what I mean. And a lot of people named William and Bill are with me there. I know when I see somebody who's working a program of spirituality, I can tell that they're working it by the way that they're walking and talking. You know, a lot of people can get sober, but not a lot of people are willing to get happy. You know? And so that's how you can tell. That's how you can take your spiritual temperature. That's it. How happy am I? You know, we don't want to take responsibility for our happiness, but that's it. You know, you are responsible for your own happiness. So I'm not, if I'm not happy, I've made up a story. And I've made this story up, and I basically have created this Maureen puddle that I'm sitting in and stirring this short little limited puddle, right? When all of the time I could be in the great ocean of God by opening up to a greater idea of who I am and what role I'm actually here to play. My smallness and my wanting to create small puddles to play in is just a symbol of my fear. And fear is very stagnant and small. So any place in your life where you're feeling stagnant or small, you know, you could say, this is where I have detached myself from God. Or if you choose to say love, or if you choose to say my higher power, it doesn't really matter. We're talking about flow. So, every morning on our morning call, we read St. Francis prayer. I'm here to be a channel, you know, and if I'm here to be a channel, and if I commit to loving, I am actually going to feel so lit up and happy with everything. And you'll find that when you work these principles, that you will find happiness and delight in so many things. And once you recognize the value of that ability to change your mind and see things differently, you will no longer exchange your responsibility to your own happiness for the broken toys of the ego and fear. Like, you'll just say no. You'll have intolerance for it. You'll be like, I know where that train goes. I'm not getting on, you know? And so you develop, you know, a strength in your own faith. We have an epidemic in our world of unplugged people. But here, you know, we get to plug into a truth. We get to plug into love. We get to plug into the idea that we can be happy, shiny calling cards for God. We can be happy, shiny calling cards for love. You know, you can put the sun in Sunday. Sunny, you know? And we're going to need that as we move into winter together, you know? We can be each other's sunlight. We can be each other's sunshine. When I dabble in my limited resources, I end up in this cut-off place, in this puddle mentality, I like to say, and I experience that lack and limitation. But when I dabble and connect to the magnificence of God, I get inspiration, I get expansion, I get celebration, you know? So we get to see the difference. It's the difference between power versus force. I don't know if anyone here has ever read any David R. Hawkins books. Power versus Force is one of my favorite books. He's an amazing teacher. Actually, speaking of amazing teachers, Joe Wolf used to study directly with him. Joe Wolf is a member of our community who came here a little while ago, who has a prison ministry. And he's going to come here on March 8th, I think it is, with Gary Renard and do a workshop for us, which will be really great. Gary Renard is a huge teacher of A Course in Miracles, and they asked me if I could host this event with them. So that's going to be huge for us, you know, but basically, you know, Power versus Force, 12-step, Course in Miracles, all of these philosophies are driving us towards, or inviting us towards, the same outcome of recognizing that there is a power within each of us. There's a power, an extension of God, an extension of love that we live in, that we have access to. And that this power of God's love that lives in us, it doesn't need any promotion. It doesn't need any persuasion. It doesn't need any pressure. You know, when we connect with it, it actually uplifts and honors and dignifies everything. It's this beautiful empowerment. Now, the opposite of that is force. You know, force is fear. When we try and force the issue, we're not designed to force. That's why it feels so uncomfortable. If we're forcing our way through to something, then we haven't been in acceptance. That's just not right now, my beloved. God answers prayers in 3 ways. Yes, my beloved, the way is made clear and open. The doors are flying open. You'll experience that. Or not right now, my beloved. So that just means sit tight. God's still cooking your meal. Or the third one is, I have something better for you. Like you're swimming upstream in some ways, when over here is something that's so much better for you. So just trust me and let me redirect you to your highest and greatest good. But not with force, but with a power within you that's connected to love. So there is a power, and this flow is in you. And it's in all things. It's a power, it's a flow, it's an ebb and flow. You can feel it even in your breath. You know that there's this ebb and this flow to your breath, the inhale and the exhale that takes us, if we pay attention to our breath, as Mary Lynn helped us to do this morning, it takes us into this place of be still and know God. And God is this experience of expansion. We can feel that ebb and flow of life in the current of our blood that runs through our body, brings oxygen to every cell of our body and fiber of our being. There's this beautiful plan that we don't have to even think about. In the same way that we don't have to think about the blood bringing oxygen to our body, there's so much that we don't need to think about. All of that thinking is causing us to be detached from being, you know? So we can let God do its part. Let, God do the heavy lifting and allow ourselves to, as I like to say, get in the passenger seat with God. Trust that God knows where to take you. And I'm not saying to be idle, because there's no way we could be idle. We live in the constant flow of God anyhow. And especially when we consistently say, what would love have us do? Then we're saying, God's driving, I'm just going to see what is my part to do. Most of the time, it just is that most of my participation is just an appreciation. If I appreciate what God has already done, I'm good to go. You know what I mean? And God has already done so much for us, you know what I mean? And it's funny because we never enjoy we often don't take the time to enjoy the meal that God has whipped up for us. We keep ordering more food, and God's like, could you just settle down and enjoy what I made for you right now? Like, can you not see how gorgeous and beautiful and rich and delicious this is right now? You don't have to worry about ordering your next meal. I got somebody else cooking that for you. Right now is yours to enjoy. You know, and we've sucked out the ability of our own joy, you know, to take time to enjoy the beauty that we are immersed in. You can feel that if you take the time. There's no force to that. It's actually a power that wells up from within you, that recognizes itself in everything. And there we have Holy Communion. So we've heard this advice, go with the flow. Yeah, okay, you know. Heard it a million times and it's still like, I don't get it. What do you mean go with the flow? It's so hard to go with the flow because we want to drive the car, you know what I mean? And we've been taught and domesticated in writing lists and figure out where you're going and get there and it's exhausting. So, go with the flow. Like, just use that as your mantra this week and see where that brings you. We talk a lot here in A Course in Miracles about row, row, row the boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. It's not about getting hung up and strung out. It's about really getting in the canoe with God and enjoying. Eric Butterworth. I wish I brought my books that I referenced this week, because there's some great books out there on all of these topics. But Eric Butterworth is a great author of, you know, the same as David R. Hawkins. But Eric Butterworth wrote a book called The Flow of Life. And he makes a really interesting point. He quotes Jesus and he says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." So the pure of heart is when we come unencumbered to the moment, when we're not thinking about our next meal. You know, when we come unencumbered and we just stay in this moment. When children walk into a room, they're experiencing the room as is. They're not coming in saying, I hope I get this, that, and the other thing. They're just going, oh, car, house, mom, dad. You know, they're so unencumbered. So he said, blessed are the pure in spirit. And for us as adults, what that means is that unencumbered is about forgiveness. You know, it's about clearing the way, clearing all unforgiveness so that we can have that flow of God move through us. He also says this interesting point in that book. He says that the word I comes from the Sanskrit word fountain. And I found this very interesting, but as I continued to read about different interpretations of the eye and fountain in the Bible and other places, it says that the eye is like a fountain. It's actually giving out. It's projecting like a camera out into the world. And of course, Miracles talks about this, how we're projecting out into the world, and it flows like a fountain out into the world. And if you think about a fountain flowing from you, it's like a fountain nurtures the land around it, right? So everything grows up around what you focus on, okay? And this is the same with our sight. What we focus on increases. So this is this thing that we're kind of flowing out through us. We can project our own stories of brokenness, or we can let the love of God flow through us and take care of everything around us. And that's called cultivating holy territory. And if you cultivate holy territory by allowing yourself to be a channel for God's love, everywhere you walk will be holy. And I want that for you. I want it for me. I can't, you know, we don't want to live in a world where, oh, this is my holy territory and I hope you figure out yours. Because that'll be like creating lily pads. We don't need lily pads, you know. So the other day I invented a game called Pocket Full of Fish. I love this game. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Pocket Full of Fish. I didn't invent it. It just came to me because my inspiration was I wanted to create more storytellers in our community. I have these 2 events that I do twice a month called Voice Box, and we get storytellers to come out and tell stories. And, you know, we get some good storytellers, but we each have a story, and we each get to need to be sharing our story. That's the same thing with this community. That's why we're in a circle. That's why we talk, because we all have something vital to share that's super important. We each hold each other's medicine. So anyway, I knew that if I focused on the storytellers in the community and I spotted them, I could nurture them. But I knew that if you helped me do it, that it would be magnetized. So this game was Pocket Full of Fish, that when anyone walked into Voice Box, they're going to get a little plastic fish. And yes, I already ordered them from, Oriental Food Company or whatever. And I have like 500 plastic fish. And everybody gets a fish. And then as you walk around, you know, when you hear stories on stage, and when you walk around and get yourself a drink and commune with your fellow storytellers and members of your neighborhood, if you hear somebody who has a good story or somebody who has a good voice, you slip them the fish. You put it in their pocket. You could hand it to them like a normal and appropriate person, but I would prefer if you got a little fun with it and slip the fish. So at the end of the night, whoever has a pocket full of fish will get a story coaching session with Will or myself, and they'll get invited back to tell a full-length story. I know I just told, he didn't know about this. I'm a little codependent. We all know that. That's okay. So, pocket full of fish. But see, this is how we share our vision. Like, I can do so much with my own eyes, but together we can, you know, cultivate storytelling amongst us. And storytelling is just one of our original medicines. Singing, dancing, storytelling, and stillness. If you want to get healed, if you have a place that needs a little medicine in your life, these are the things that you can apply to them. And I'm going to teach you some of them actually today. We're going to employ some of them today, actually. We already did stillness. There is an Egyptian saying in regards to fish that says, because if you come to Voice Box and you tell a good story and people give you fish, you're going to be lucky. So there's a saying, an Egyptian saying that says, the lucky person falls in the river and comes up with a fish in its mouth. That's funny. And last week we talked about the difference between luck and love. You know, we give luck a lot of credit for what love does. You know, but as you focus on love and as you begin to let love flow through you. I don't want to say project love, because love doesn't project. It flows through you. It's not from you. It goes through you. You'll experience a greater good in your life as well. Love is the most powerful thing of all. And we actually live in a great sea of love. So there's this interesting story from the Bible. There's a story about a miraculous fishing expedition that the disciples went on. And the story is about the disciples and how they went out and they went fishing one day. And they didn't get lucky at all. No Egyptian luck for them. They came back after a full day of fishing and they got nothing. And Jesus met them on the shores. And Jesus was like, "Hey, how's the catch today?" And they're like, "We got nothing." And he's like, you need to send your net over the right side of the boat. And they were like, normally you would think, like, you got these major fishermen who know what they're doing, and this dude on the shore is a backseat driver, like, what you need to do, But they didn't resent him for it because they knew him. They knew that he had walked on water. They knew that he had turned water into wine. They knew that he had risen from the dead, because at this point, when this story came out, he was already dead. They were like, "Cool, look who's back," giving us fish advice. So they were like, actually, one of them jumped out of the boat and he was like, "Oh my gosh!" And Jesus was like, "No, get back in the boat. I need some fish." Isn't that funny? So Simon Paul gets back in the boat, and they drop their net over the right side of the boat, and they pull it up, and it's so full that they can hardly get the net onto the boat. And as a metaphysician, what this says to me is that we have to engage in our right-minded thinking, and we have to implore a divine wisdom that is available to each of us. And it kind of lives on the shore of the places that we haven't been yet. If we're in the boat saying, "I know how to do this," we leave no space to grow our intelligence and our expertise around our field. So we have to continue to come with this beginner mind, the clarification of our mind, so that we can continue to be on the cusp of the unknown. And so these guys brought in all this fish, and it really worked out for them. And I want that for you, to toss your nets over the right side, to move from your right-minded, to activate right-mindedness. Jesus said, "With myself I can do nothing or very little, but with this power within me I can do anything." And that's the truth for you. So why wouldn't we engage in that, the one causality, which is God? Like, why wouldn't we attach our fishing rods to God and let God fish through us and bring to us all that we need? If we have established a faith in a God that is true love, there's no limit in it. And so we are no less worthy than those fishermen. We should drop our nets every single time and be blessed by the abundance of God. In fact, when we have dropped our nets and been blessed, and sometimes we've forgotten to be in awe of it. I mean, look where we are. We're in Hinsdale, in this gorgeous jewel box of a church with designer shoes on our feet. Some of us have Starbucks. Not me. Nobody brought me Starbucks today. I've got to drop my net. The right side of the boat. Anyhow. For some crazy reason, we forget to activate this source. For some crazy reason, we go it alone. We amputate the flow. And we find ourselves exhausted and frustrated and without coffee. I'm going to go back to that. That's not true at all. Actually, Will brought me delicious coffee this morning. I'm grateful for that coffee. But when we get to this place, we can hit our bottom. We can hit our bottom. Hopefully, we will hit our bottom, and we'll recognize, wait, I've been out of contact with my God, who loves me so much and is invested in my highest and greatest good. And like Dorothy, we can Dorothy in the red shoes, tap into that amazing thing that lives within us, has always lived within us. That's our guidance. And this guidance never leaves us. It's the flow and it's the rhythm that's invested in greater movement for us and through us. And it's not wise to just recognize and accept that we are one with that divine flow, but it's really wise to literally tap into it. So how do you tap into that divine flow? One way is coming in community, recognizing yourself as a spiritual being, aligning it with yourself. And of course, what we talked about already was clarification, like forgiving everyone, everything. Like just drop that. That's going to get you nowhere fast. You're going to be spinning your boat really beautifully in a circle, catching nothing if we continue to engage in unforgiveness. So we want to activate the I am statement, I am ready to receive my good. I am one with the power of God. I am, divine and well lit in God. We want to affirm that we are firmly tethered by God. We want to affirm that. This past week, I had the privilege of going over to Don Sprawn's school with my little friend Billy. And this little kid pulled Billy aside. Oh my God, and he was so cute. And she told me the story after we were done. But she said, Mom, this little boy pulled me over and he said, Billy, my name is Richard and I'm 11 years old and I'm very worried. And she said, what are you worried about, Richard? And he said, my brother is 7 and he doesn't read yet. And she said, oh, well, you seem like a really smart kid. Like you could probably help him to learn to read. And he said, yeah, but Billy, I'm really worried because I'm going to get glasses and people will think I'm a dork. I know, little kid carrying all these worries around. And Billy said to him, and I was so proud of her because she told me the story afterwards, and they had this whole ministry moment over in the corner, and I was screaming, directions at all the other little kids. And he said, people are going to think I'm a dork. And she said, guess what, Richard? I had glasses, and at the same time, I had braces, and I did look like a dork, and nobody told me. And I just thought that was so beautiful, I know, it's just so beautiful that we can hold the high watch for each other, All of the tribulations and traumas that we've gone through, they're just not just to like tenderize our soul, but they're so that somebody's going to ask us along the pathway, hey, I'm going through a divorce and it sucks. Hey, I've been through a divorce, I'm still standing, Hey, somebody's addicted in my family. Guess what? Been there, done that. It's all good. It's going to work out. Like you can carry the good news to other people by the way that you are rise again and rise again and rise again. We're here to rise again, not just for ourselves, but for each other. So I want that for you. I want that for us. I want that for Richard. I don't even know Richard, but I want that for him. I want that for all of our kids. I want us all to realize that we do have domain over our thinking, that we do have a choice, that we can create and co-create this experience with the divine, and we cannot outgood God. I want that for our kids everywhere. I want to give kids everywhere, but we can't give it to kids everywhere. But we can give it to those people under our noses. So like I pointed out in the beginning, like you have people that come under your nose, and you don't even it's hard for us to recognize the ripple effect that's coming out for us when we're willing to give love, when we're willing to be happy, when we're willing to be well lit and in the flow. I wanted to give you a little teaching just on the I am statement, because one of the other books that I used was Joel Osteen's The Power of I Am. And to take this with you this week, to recognize where you're using it or where you're being used for it. Whatever follows the I am will follow you. Whatever follows the I am will follow you. So I am tired, I am broken, I am fed up. Like pretty soon that's going to find you and it's going to start to follow you. And if you continue to affirm that, it won't just follow you, it will begin to lead you. And you don't want to be led by a broken I am statement. People will start to go, oh, there she is, broken, sad, limited. You want to be led by an I am statement that's worthy of your God. I am brilliant. I am a genius. We talked about that last week. It's kind of a big thing for us to try on, but if not us, who? So how we use our words to stay in the flow, how we use our words to stay in the flow with what we actually want is really important for us to wake up to. You get to choose. We each get to choose. We have freedom of choice. That's how generous God is. You can put anything you like. You can put anything you like after I am. Imagine that. You can put anything you like after that. So why do we keep adding salt to the sundae? You know what I mean? Why do we keep putting pepper on, on our caramels? Like, that doesn't taste good. Like, we don't need that. So be careful with your words. There's a friend of mine, Megan McDonough, who's a great singer, right? And she's a songwriter in Chicago. She opened up for John Denver. Like, she's been around for forever, and she has a song called "Your Word Is Your Wand." Watch how you wave it, I think she says. But your word is your wand, If you focus on your weaknesses and your worries, like Richard, you'll have more worries and weaknesses, But if you focus on your strength instead of your weaknesses, you'll see a shift. if you focus on your beauty, if you focus on your joy and not your jealousies, if you focus on your potential and not your problems, you will see a shift in your life. My mother taught me, and I was so blessed by my mom, she taught me about one of those medicines, those early medicines of singing. And she said, if you sing your prayer is twice said. And I thought, well, that's a really interesting thing. So this was one of the songs that we taught to the kids. We're going to close with a song, and then we're going to go into our conversation. But this is one of the songs that we taught to the kids called I Am So Blessed. You know that one? Okay, so you're going to sing with me. Oh, everyone's going to sing with me. So you can close your eyes and imagine those places where you are so grateful and you have no doubt that there is a divine power working for you, that is doing the heavy lifting, that is simply guiding you with effortlessness. And I'm going to sing the song with Maggie. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do it together.
Okay, and then you can come in when you're ready. We'll sing it 3 times. 1 and 2 and 1. You lead. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I am. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. Yay! So, we are actively seeking to grow our community. We are actively seeking to be a community that supports its children. We're actively seeking to engage people to their highest and greatest good. We're actively seeking to be supported by our own contributions and more. And this is the vision. This is where we're moving. And I can't go it alone because it would be really boring. And I need you to come with me. Are you with me?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, here's Maggie. So what do you think? I would love to hear from you. Leave a comment below, or you can go ahead and sign up for our newsletter at SpeakEasySpiritualCommunity.com so we can keep the conversation going. Because SpeakEasy is all about engaging in engaging conversations. Everything is better when we all share our voice. I'm Maureen Muldoon, your Spiritual Vixen, reminding you to love more and fear less, and don't forget to laugh. What do you say?